Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a warm and peaceful day. Today, we're going to explore a quiet but powerful story about a small rural home, a tired woman, and a little girl who sells banana bread just to survive as winter and Tet draw near. What happens when an unexpected meeting on a village road changes the course of their lives? Stay with me to find out. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next video. Late afternoon light slips through the warped cracks of a wooden door, washing the small rural house in a soft, honey-colored glow. Auntie sits close to the stove, sleeves rolled, calloused hands moving in a slow, practiced circle as she stirs a pot of banana jam. It bubbles lazily, releasing a sweet, comforting scent that pushes back the early winter chill. Nearby, Nhi perches on a low wooden stool, her knees tucked in, eyes glued to the dancing flames. She nibbles at a small cake Mrs. Huyen bought earlier, biting carefully, like she's afraid the sweetness might disappear if she rushes it. "Eat a little more, child, or you'll get cold," Auntie says. Her voice is gentle, but there's a tired edge beneath it. She reaches for another piece of firewood and feeds it into the stove, coaxing the flames higher, as if warmth alone could wrap around the child and keep her safe. Nhi nods, with her mouth still full. After a moment, she asks about the bananas hanging in the back. Are they ripe yet? Auntie smiles and tells her she'll save one whole bunch just for her. The promise lands like a small gift. The room feels peaceful, almost suspended in time. And yet, behind Auntie's smile, worry hums quietly. How many jars of jam will sell tomorrow? Will it be enough for firewood, enough for rice, enough to keep Nhi from going to bed hungry? She glances at the girl, her chest tightening. Nhi isn't her blood, not really. But somehow, she's become essential. The fire crackles softly, like a slow, uneven heartbeat, reminding Auntie how thin these walls are against the coming cold. She exhales, keeps stirring, determined to hold this warmth, this smell of cake, this soft laughter, for as long as she can, even if it's only for a short season. Outside, shadows stretch across the yard. Inside, the glow stubbornly remains, a fragile defiance against the dark. When night settles in, the flickering oil lamp throws trembling shadows across the worn wooden table. Its light falls on the frayed pages of an old alphabet book. Nhi sits upright, tracing each letter with her finger, sounding them out slowly, carefully, like each one matters. Auntie, now Ms. Diep, stands close, her voice quiet but steady. "Put the book on the table. It's easier to study that way," she says. Nhi does as she's told, then looks up. "What should I read, Ms. Diep?" Diep manages a small, tired smile. Dark circles sit beneath her eyes, souvenirs from too many sleepless nights. "Anything. Just read it out loud." Silence settles again. The wind slips through the gaps in the door. The fire in the stove crackles, weaker now. Diep reaches out and smooths Nhi's hair. The softness under her palm stirs something deep inside her. Familiar, yet strange. It's the warmth of caring for someone who's slowly filling a space she didn't even realize was empty. But exhaustion comes fast, like a wave. "Ms. Diep is really tired," she murmurs. "I'm going to lie down." Nhi watches her retreat to the corner, her thin silhouette moving slowly. Diep lowers herself onto a narrow mat, pulling the blanket close, trying to convince her body to rest despite the cold creeping in. Outside, The night feels heavy and still, broken only by a distant dog's bark. With her eyes closed, Diep's thoughts keep racing. Tomorrow, there's rice to cook, the fire to light again, Nhi to care for, workshop paperwork to handle. The weight presses down, turning sleep into a luxury. She grips the edge of the blanket, hoping for even a brief escape before dawn brings everything back. Not long after, the house is wrapped in darkness, save for the faint glow of dying embers. Then, a muffled sound cuts through the quiet. Nhi's sobs. She jerks upright on the mat, clutching her pillow, tears soaking her cheeks. I miss Mom. I dreamed about Mom. Her voice shakes in the cold air. Diep startles awake and rushes to her, kneeling, pulling the trembling little body into her arms. I'm here, she whispers. Ms. Diep is right here. Don't cry. Nhi looks up, eyes swollen and red. I miss her so much. The words hit Diep like a knife. She tightens her embrace, knowing she can never replace the real mother. But she also can't leave this child alone with that pain. Her voice breaks as she speaks. You can call Ms. Diep Mom, just for now, just so it hurts a little less. Nhi nods weakly and presses her head against Diep's chest. Diep stands, rekindles the fire. White smoke curls upward, like unanswered prayers. Mom will cook rice for you when you wake up, she says softly. Don't be sad anymore, okay? The flames catch, lighting Nhi's face as her breathing slowly steadies. Diep sits beside her, staring into the fire, heart heavy with questions she has no answers for. When will the real mother come back? Or will she herself become the only anchor for this child through endless nights like this? The wind howls outside, low and distant. In Diep's arms, Nhi drifts back to sleep, carrying a fragile warmth into the dark. First light creeps through the bamboo walls, painting pale gold streaks across the cold floor. The fire is alive again, crackling softly. Diep sits by the stove, hands moving from habit as she cooks a small pot of rice. The smell of fresh grain mixes with wood smoke. Nhi wakes and pads over, rubbing her eyes. Ms. Diep, the fire's warm now, she says quietly. Diep smiles and pulls her close, offering a still hot piece of cake. Careful, it's hot, but it's good, crispy with sugar, like potato chips. Nhi takes a bite, her eyes lighting up, last night's sadness fading for a moment. Diep watches her, something easing in her chest. That smile feels like sunlight breaking through clouds. Eat up, she says. Then we'll study more today. Ms. Diep still has work to do. Nhi nods, holding the cake like treasure. The morning carries a thin thread of hope. Maybe the real mother will return. Maybe things will be okay. But deep inside, pressure simmers. The workshop needs expansion. New taxes are coming. Banana jam and bread may not be enough. Diep glances toward the door as the countryside wakes, her heart heavy with one quiet question. How long can she keep Nhi warm, fed, and safe if nothing changes? She exhales and stirs the rice. The fire's steady crackle mirrors a stubborn heartbeat. Worries are waiting, but so are small moments. The warmth of the stove, sugar on a child's lips, the promise to keep going. Midday sun pushes through the thatched roof, lighting up swirling sawdust in the cramped workshop behind the house. Diep stands among aging machines when an official arrives. She hands him a cup of water. The air shifts instantly, from family warmth to the sharp tension of paperwork and numbers. Comrade Thon sent me to help with your expansion procedures, the man says. Diep nods. I'm adding 25 square meters, 3 more machines, 2 planers, and 1 assistant machine, and about 5 more workers. She lists everything carefully, fighting to keep her voice steady. The official mentions the new law. All workshops must pay taxes now. No exceptions. Diep's fingers tighten around the cup. Taxes could swallow what little profit she has. I understand, she says quietly. If there are issues, please help me. I'm afraid I won't be able to comply fully. He promises to review the documents. When he leaves, Diep looks around at the silent machines and stacked planks. This workshop is her hope and her heaviest burden. She breathes in deeply, fear and resolve mixing together, a small flame refusing to go out. Late afternoon sun spills a pale gold across the dusty village road as Ms. Diep pushes an old bicycle forward, its frame creaking under the weight of a metal tray stacked with freshly baked banana bread. Warm, sweet steam rises from the loaves, mixing with the faint scent of charcoal and dry earth. Nhi sits perched on the front bar, her small legs swinging back and forth, clutching plastic bags filled with bread. Her voice, shy but clear, floats into the air as people pass by. Sister, would you like some banana bread? I made it myself. 10,000 a bag. Really delicious. A woman slows her steps, smiling at the child's earnest face. Did you really make these? Nhi nods quickly, eyes bright. Yes. Well then, give me 2 bags, the woman says, laughing softly. Diep steps in, hands moving fast as she wraps the bread. She forces a smile, though exhaustion has carved deep lines into her face. Thank you so much, she says, her voice rough from hours of calling out. The woman walks away, bread tucked under her arm, and Nhi watches the small wad of money added to their pouch like it's something precious. With Tet approaching, the road is busier than usual. Motorbikes hum past, vendors shout, but most people hurry on, barely glancing their way. Diep guides the bicycle beneath an old banyan tree and stops. She wipes sweat from her forehead and turns to Nhi. Are you tired, child? Let's rest for a moment. Nhi shakes her head immediately. She straightens up and calls out again, determined, as if every word might lighten Diep's burden just a little. Inside Diep, each earned coin feels like a small victory. Enough for rice, maybe firewood, maybe even a cheap pair of shoes so Nhi can greet the new year without holes in her soles. She looks at the girl and feels pride and pain collide. Nhi is too young for this, yet her innocent smile draws people in more than any sales pitch ever could. The afternoon breeze turns cold, a reminder that Tet is near, and that poverty tightens its grip as the year ends. Diep reaches out and holds Nhi's hand, passing on what little strength she has left. Their calls echo down the road, blending with laughter and engine noise. A quiet portrait of survival, heavy with unspoken ache. As the sun sinks behind a grove of bamboo, the village road darkens to deep red. Foot traffic thins. Only a few bags of banana bread remain on the tray. Diep and Nhi sit beside the bicycle, the warmth from the charcoal fading fast. Then suddenly a car slows and pulls over, dust swirling around its tires. The door opens, and James steps out. His neat suit looks almost unreal against the rustic scene. He freezes for a moment, eyes moving from the bicycle to the bread, then to the child sitting quietly beside it. James. Oh my goodness, he says, disbelief and concern mixing in his voice. You two are selling banana bread out here? Diep looks up and offers a tired but steady smile. Yes, I started last night. Ted is close. So, we're trying. Nhi presses closer to Diep, studying the unfamiliar man with wide, curious eyes. James crouches slightly, taking in the tray of bread. Then Nhi's small hands already rough from work. Something tightens in his chest. This is a side of life he rarely sees, far removed from boardrooms and balance sheets. Coin by coin, day by day. I came to talk about some business, he says slowly, then pauses. But it's getting late. Let me take you both home. Diep hesitates. Just a heartbeat. Then she nods and gathers the remaining bread. James opens the car door, helping Nhi climb in. As the car pulls away, Nhi presses her face to the window, watching the darkening field slide past, a quiet spark of excitement in her eyes. Diep sits beside her, emotions churning, gratitude, unease, hope tangled with fear. Does James truly understand what she carries every day? Or is this kindness just a passing moment, easily forgotten once he returns to his world? James glances at them in the rearview mirror, his own thoughts heavy. Can he step into lives this fragile without breaking something? The car rolls through the fading light, carrying questions no one dares to ask aloud. Back at the house, James helps unload the bicycle and bread. The familiar creak of the wooden door greets them. Nhi hops down eagerly, running inside to warm herself by the stove. Diep follows more slowly, setting the tray aside. James stands awkwardly near the doorway, hands in his pockets, taking in the small space. The thin walls, the stove, the quiet resilience clinging to every corner. It's cold, he says, more to himself than anyone else. Diep nods. Winter came early this year. They sit around the stove while Nhi munches on a leftover piece of bread. James listens as Diep speaks about the workshop expansion, the new taxes, the machines she hopes to add. She keeps her tone factual, controlled, but beneath it runs a current of strain that's impossible to miss. If the paperwork fails, she trails off, not finishing the sentence. James leans forward, elbows on his knees. I'll take a look, he says. I can't promise miracles, but I won't let things collapse if there's a way to prevent it. Diep studies his face, searching for signs of empty reassurance. She finds none. Still, she doesn't fully relax. She's learned not to. Night settles again. James prepares to leave, but before he does, Nhi tugs gently at his sleeve. Uncle, she says softly, will you come back? The question catches him off guard. He kneels to her level. Yes, he answers after a moment. I will. Nhi smiles, satisfied. Diep watches the exchange, her chest tightening with emotions she doesn't name. After the car disappears down the road, Diep closes the door and leans against it for a second, letting out a long breath. The house feels different now. Still poor, still cold, but touched by something new. Possibility, or perhaps danger. She isn't sure which. Later that night, as the fire burns low again, Diep lies awake, listening to Nhi's slow breathing beside her. James's offer echoes in her mind. Help can change everything, or complicate it beyond repair. She turns on her side, pulling the blanket closer around the child. Morning comes quietly. Diep rises early, as always, lighting the fire, washing rice. Nhi wakes and helps sweep the floor, humming softly. Outside, the village stirs. Somewhere down the road, life continues its relentless pace. Diep pauses for a moment, watching steam rise from the pot, listening to the small sounds of another day beginning. The burdens haven't vanished. Taxes, expansion, survival, they're all still waiting. But mixed in with the weight is something unfamiliar, a fragile thread of support, a reminder that even in the hardest seasons, unexpected crossings can shift the path forward. She hands Nhi a warm bowl of rice. "Eat," she says gently. "We have a long day ahead." Nhi smiles and eats, the fire crackling beside them like a stubborn heart that refuses to stop beating.